Scandinavian open sandwiches where Shelley was the beautifully baked fresh rye bread, and then we had the meaty substance and content delicious from Richard. And of course, it's an open sandwich, so there is no top slice. I'm just salt. I am the salt that's between you and your wine. So I will try and move at a pace that will not keep you waiting too long. A little bit about me, Mick Corti. I have been in procurement for 22 and a bit years now. 17 years in permanent roles. I guess the pinnacle of that was with the same organisation Shelley was with recently Accenture, where I was a director. Then more recently, 5 happy years as an interim with UBS. There's a few over here from UBS, and Barclays Capital, and Pirelli, and most recently the NHS. And as I've got 2 small children and a wife with a real shopping habit, I've taken the permanent plunge into the NHS, and I'm now the commercial director for the last 2 weeks at least in the NHS London Procurement Programme, which is the collaborative procurement group for the NHS in London. Spend across London for the NHS is about £6 billion a year, 118,000 staff. We think we've got spend under management in our collaborative group of about £1 billion a year going through collaborative arrangements for London. The NHS, for those of you who don't know, is very autonomous. Every NHS trust actually is an entity in their own body. Most of them are now what's called foundation trusts that have a lot of autonomy and make their own financial decisions and make their own purchasing decisions. So if you think about that, if you equate that into a multinational organisation, it'd be like having in London 44 operating businesses making their own independent procurement decisions inside 25 square mile geography. So we have some challenges, but it's interesting. I'll have to put this disclaimer on the bottom, I've been told. This is a very public sector. I'm not, anything I say tonight cannot be attributed back to either the LPP or the NHS, but can only be attributed back to me. And I think that's probably quite important, because I'm going to try and flavour my speech with a few examples for the NHS, just to sort of make your mind boggle a little bit. But obviously, anything I do say in this room will be plausibly deniable by me afterwards, because I'm saying, I must have too much wine to drink. What I'm going to talk about is risk, and a procurement perspective on risk. This is actually a slide deck that I've tweaked ever so slightly. It was one that I was asked by some senior guys in the NHS to put together to talk to procurement people in the NHS about risk. And so some of it maybe you think it's like my pleasing grandmother to suck eggs. Hopefully some of it will resonate a little bit with you. Okay. Is it not the down key? Oh, that. So that's the HM Treasury definition of risk. It's about an event that has an uncertainty of outcome. The interesting thing about this definition is it says it could be positive or negative. I've never heard someone talking about positive risks, I have to say, but that's the Treasury, I guess, for you. The other thing that's quite interesting from this definition of risk, and this is, bear in mind, this is a public sector body that's saying this, is they acknowledge that without risk, it's very hard to generate value. And I think you probably know that in all your day-to-day lives, right? You can't, so aiming for risk-free probably means that's the wrong approach, because without risk, there won't be the opportunity to generate some value. As I say, if the Treasury thinks that, then it has to be true. Okay. At the end of this, my little few minutes, I'm going to try and leave you a slightly different thought about the unexpected risks or the unforeseen risks, and whether actually people tend to think of unforeseen risks or unexpected risks as bad luck. And I just want to put a little seed in your mind that maybe there are things we can do about unforeseen or unexpected risks. Some risks can't be foreseen. Peace for our time. Now, who was it who said that? And when did he say it? Well, of course, it was Neville Chamberlain in 1938, 1 year before World War II. I think it was one night long. If I'd had a chance to change these slides today, I would have put up here, I'll be around for some time, and I'll change the date to 20th of November 2012 to be right up to date. And of course, it would have been Roberto Di Matteo. Okay, so what I'm not going to talk to you about is the risk management protocol, the risk management framework. Most organisations have a very robust approach to risk management in certain areas. There's certain operational areas or certain front office areas if you're in the banking world, but not necessarily those. And if that risk management framework doesn't exist in your world of procurement, then you've probably got colleagues or peers in your organisation you can talk to about a risk management framework. What I'm going to talk to is more of a back to basics, risks in procurement, the actual risks themselves, rather than the governance and management framework around it. That said, these are the things that a risk management framework will need to cater for. It's all about identifying the risk, classifying the risk, categorising their impact and their probability, establishing that someone owns the risk, that you're tracking the risk, and of course you're trying to mitigate the risks. If your organisation doesn't have a risk management framework, either already in play in procurement or in other areas of your organisation, then a good place to look is the now defunct, but still available ODC website. Again, I know another public sector organisation, but actually they commissioned a piece of work several years ago. It cost an inordinate amount of money for very smart people from a consultancy firm to pull together, and it's a really good risk management framework. I would say have a look at that. But that's enough about the actual mechanics of risk management. Procurement risk specifically. So where's it going to hurt? Right. If the risks turn into issues. Well, reputationally, I think Richard spoke about that quite clearly. The reputational damage if we've done something like Olympics. Don't know if there's anyone here from. I won't name names, but a very famous soft drink company recently had to take millions and millions of bottles of one of their most favourite drinks off the shelves because the caps were in danger of choking the child who was drinking that drink. Now, I'm not sure, but I guess whoever bought those caps, because I know they're not manufactured, probably got something with a slap over the wrist. Operationally, again, if you haven't got something clearly that you need and you're buying it, you haven't got the right time, the right place, that's going to be a real pain. In the NHS, I've heard stories, anecdotally of course, of people being prepped for surgery and the relevant implant not being ready, not being available. So you can imagine what the effect would be of opening someone up and finding actually what you were planning to put inside them was not available. Some of these risks, some of these areas are obviously interrelated. Litigation is probably related to reputation. Again, from an NHS perspective, this is in the public domain. You've probably heard of the hip joints that are rusting, right, and that are leaching into people. That's a huge litigation issue for the NHS, and one that with hindsight has probably been foreseen. Okay, so I'll talk about where it's going to hurt you, but where actually is the pain going to, how are those risks going to manifest themselves? Well, I guess there's three broad areas. There's internal risks, which are all associated with your process and control, which is what you do and how you do it. There's the external risks, that are things that are outside your world, and put there those pesky suppliers. Well, a lot of those risks are around the supply market, and then there's the unforeseen or the unexpected risk. And that's the bit I want to end on in terms of expecting the unexpected. In terms of those internal risks, well, this is a non-exhaustive list. I put that up there. I put that up there and I was talking to the NHS guys, and the danger is to go away and treat it like a tick box exercise. You can never come up with an exhaustive list. But in an insufficient, and I'm not going to talk through each bullet point, that'd be very, very, very boring, but insufficient standardisation. So the NHS, do you know how many different product lines the NHS has? Bearing in mind Tesco's and Asda, I have been told, have something like 45 to 50,000 different product lines. Well, the NHS has got 690,000 different product lines. Okay, we've got 715 types of surgical gloves. 715, I mean, mind-boggling, isn't it? So, yeah, you think, you're all taxpayers, right? Why on earth is this being allowed to continue? Well, if it was that simple, it would be done. Inadequate make versus buy. Well, this is quite an interesting